All right. You ready? Sure. I'm not going to start this. Are you ready? Are you sure? We'll start it then. All right. So some of you asked what you got there. So this is what you got is a sample of the DoTerra VMG Plus. So this is a multivitamin drink beverage that's also a greens beverage. And so what we're finding is it's like 200 times more bioavailable than anything that you find in a capsule. And so as far as a multivitamin, this is my go-to. This is what I have every single day. Now what's in here is a lot of stuff. You can see all the small words there, but it's got everything from your B vitamins to your fat-soluble vitamins to some minerals. It's got a superfood blend. That's the greens powder that you're kind of tasting in there as well. It's got a few things that help with the bioavailability boosting, which includes a lot of pre and pro and postbiotics as well. So you're getting some of that. And then it's got a cellular support blend and a biotransformation blend, which includes some protein. It's got a little bit of protein powder in there from pea protein, a lot of digestive enzymes. So as far as like bang for your buck for a multivitamin, this is one of the best. You're going to get more out of less amounts because of the way that it's formulated. So since we're talking about the toxic truth, I want to give you guys a non-toxic option. This would sit on this end of the table if we're talking about that. So what we're going to do today, this is probably one of the most important workshops that I teach, which makes, why aren't there like 3 rows of people here, right? You know, everybody should be hearing this one. So for those of you that kind of get that with me, in about a month, I'm going to be doing a recap workshop at Natural Grocers. It'll be on a Saturday morning. So if you had some people that just for whatever reason they had friend or sports or work stuff where they couldn't get out to get to this, bring them to the recap workshop that we'll do at Natural Grocers. And I'll put the date and stuff up here on that. That'll be the middle of May. So we'll be going into that as well. So before I really jump into anything, I kind of want to walk you guys through a day of what it's like to be toxically exposed. And so raise your hand if you woke up in a bed this morning. In a bed, okay. And so you can keep your hand up if the mattress was organic. Yeah, most of us probably are. If you don't know, then put your hand down because most mattresses out there aren't. So just by laying in that bed, you were exposed to about 100 different toxic chemicals and carcinogens. Just trace amounts, right? But let's keep going. What did you put on that mattress? Was it a cotton sheet? You can go ahead and raise your hand up. That's something to be proud of. Nice. If it was made by the exquisite designers Polly and Esther, you can go ahead and put that hand down because those are petroleum byproducts of which we know are endocrine disruptors. If you're in contact with those things, you're going to see that start seeping into your skin. About 30% of what ends up on your skin is bloodstream. So you get up, hopefully right away, hopefully not with the snooze button like I do, and then you make your way into the bathroom. First thing I do is empty my bladder, and then I make my way to the kitchen, and I get myself a drink of water, hopefully. Coffee for some of the rest of us, but I started with water. And I got that out of, you can raise your hand if you got that out of the filter, and put that down if you got it out of the tap. Because in the tap, we have over 14 different chemicals that are above EWG's safe limits that are known carcinogens and endocrine disruptors. And that's just that. So I put a little dash of sea salt in my water just to help with the trace minerals in there. And so if you put trace minerals in your water in the morning, you can go ahead and raise your hand. And if that sea salt that you use in your kitchen happens to come from Pakistan or China, go ahead and because that's got heavy metals in it. So now we go from from there back to the bathroom, where hopefully we're going to start brushing our teeth. Now, if your toothpaste looks a little something like this, definitely don't put your hand up, because in here are about 3 different chemicals that are known carcinogens and more that are endocrine disruptors. So we've got propylene glycol in there. That's a great one. And anyone like tetrasodium thiophosphate, sodium lauryl sulfate, that's an engine research. That's carrageenan. Anyone like a side of cancer with their toothpaste in the morning? Oh, and then the wonderful FD&C green number 3, because that's so essential to making your teeth clean, right? Yeah, some of you may have taken a step in the right direction and gone with this gentleman here, Mr. Tom. Tom is a wonderful gentleman, but he also has sodium lauryl sulfate as well as carrageenan. And then we step up the list. This gentleman here, kiss my face, maybe she's a female. This one doesn't have sodium lauryl sulfate in there, and it's sweetened with stevia, but the first ingredient is sorbitol, which breaks down and really does a number on your brain. So even though it's better on the toxic ingredient list, you're still leading off with that. Now, give yourself a pat on the back if you went with something like Courier Bright or the doTERRA version of On Guard or peppermint toothpaste. That's a great way to start. And then, of course, you got to wash your hands and face. And if you did that with something like the Abode from doTERRA, give yourself another point. But if you didn't, then you're getting another dose of sodium lauryl sulfate, probably some food colors in there as well. You go in, and then if you're a female, you might put some foundation on your face. The FDA only has banned about 11 different ingredients in the list of different chemicals, of which the European Union has banned 13,000. So odds are good that you probably got some heavy metals in there, as well as endocrine disruptors, as well as things that cause cancer. So that's if you don't. Now, some of us, or hopefully most of us, are doing something like this, where we're putting it on our underarms. This is the only somewhat bad version I had. On EWG scale, this is a 5 out of 10 as far as toxicity, because the number one ingredient here is propylene glycol. So Mr. Tom, again, is not going for the win. And then take away another point, if you happen to have aluminum in your antiperspirant version of this, right? Disrupt your brain. So then we get in our shower, and if it came straight out of the tap, go ahead and take away another point, because we have all that water not only just hitting our skin and being absorbed, but we also have the steam of that, especially with the chlorine turning into chloroform gas that we're now breathing into our lungs, starting to create a toxic load. From that perspective, chlorine being a neurotoxin that attacks your brain and nerve cells. So that's just the first 15 minutes of our day. Imagine what happens as we get out into the day. We start breathing air, we get out into traffic, we open up our vents or whatever, and it starts getting into our bodies. We go into an area that has fresh paint or even fairly new paint, or we get new furniture. We get that fresh, clean car smell, the fresh, clean furniture smell. All this sense of clean are the things that are actually loading up our toxic burden or our toxic bucket. So my job today is not to scare you. My job today is to equip you guys with everything that you need in order to avoid kicking this over the edge to overloading your toxic bucket, and teach you how to unload that bucket safely. So we're going to dive into this. For those of you that are watching online that don't know too much about us, my name is Dr. Jake Tucker. I'm the owner of the clinic here. We've been in practice now, well, the clinic's been open almost 9 years. So we're creeping up on a decade. I've been in practice for over a decade now. Cheryl, who is going to be teaching with me today, has been in practice for going on 4 decades now. The last 2 of which she's been teaching everything from toxicology, pharmacology, diagnosis, all the classes that she's taught. So with that said, this is a very detail-oriented class of which we don't have time to get into everything with. The 2 toxicology classes that I took in chiropractic school took up about 10 weeks apiece. And so you're going to get about 20 different weeks worth of information here. So if you don't want me to go longer than an hour, hour and 15, I would suggest holding your questions to the very end. Otherwise, I will start going off rabbit trails and we will be here until we wake up tomorrow. And none of us want that, especially my wife and probably my kids right now. So we'll jump into that. Our goal and our mission here is to radically transform the lives of 34 million people with 5 essentials. 5 essentials, of course, we've got them on the wall over here. Max Mindset, we'll be talking a bit about stress as a toxic burden tonight. Nerve supply, we'll dive into its role in helping your body detox. Nutrition, mainly pesticides, but also which ingredients can be contributing to the toxic burden. Fitness as more of a tool to help your body detox. And then minimize toxicity, obviously, is the theme tonight. What are the toxins? How do we address them? How do we find them? How do we get them out? So that's what we're doing. So on average, you're exposed to over 700,000 toxic chemicals every single day. Now, we got through your first 15 minutes and we were in several hundred. So you can imagine how that kind of starts snowballing as we get exposed and as we go into the kitchen and get into some of that stuff. And so really what we have to remember is that the first thing when we're talking about toxicity is we have to minimize our exposure. You cannot unpoison somebody while still giving them poison, right? Does that make sense? So what is a toxin is a really important thing to define because anything can be a toxin. There's a toxic dose of water. There's a toxic dose of oxygen, right? Yeah, I mean, you go into the emergency room, they turn up that oxygen too high, and what happens? Yeah, pressure, obviously. But yeah, if you get too high of a concentration of oxygen compared to all the other elements that are in the air, then they'll actually cause toxicity symptoms and death. Water is the same thing. If you get too high of a concentration of water in your system, it can actually essentially drown your cells and lead to death. So anything can be a toxin. And so I'm going to be talking about mainly the ones that we're not seeing around us, because while one of the things we'll go into is how poor a job the FDA does of pulling out toxins from our environment, they definitely do a good job of keeping us from being exposed to the things that will kill us tomorrow. Right? We have poison control, we have emergency rooms that are trained to do these types of things. But as far as the things that load us up and lead to chronic disease, we're doing awful jobs. And so we're going to jump into that. So this is a growing problem. World Health Organization, that's the WHO, that's not the band. The World Health Organization attributes 24% of all global deaths to environmental factors, which includes toxins. And so you kind of take a look around the room here, and it's like 1 in 4 of us, statistically speaking, is very likely to die from some level of toxic exposure. At least it was a strong contributor to that. And so in my mind, if 1 in 4 of us statistically are going to be affected by this, this is something that we should be addressing regularly. And yet, what was the last time your doctor said, oh, I think you might be getting too much fabric softener? But how many people out there just, they buy those fabric softeners and they put them in their laundry every day and they put it on their skin and they breathe it in all day long and they don't even think about that toxic dose. And so that's why this is so important. So we have to start with where health is, right? Because we can't focus on getting healthier without knowing what health is. So World Health Organization, again, Dorland's Medical Dictionary, they define health as a state of 100% function and the ability of your body to heal. Now, for a symptom to show up, you have to lose an average of 40% function. But the things that kill us the most, they don't show symptoms until you're pretty close to here. What's the #1 cause of death in the United States and worldwide? Cardiovascular disease, absolutely. And the #1 most common symptom of cardiovascular disease is the heart attack. 50% of the time, that's going to be what gets you. Hearts don't fail because of just something happening instantaneously other than being stabbed, right? It's a buildup of things, whether that's a chronic stress or a chronic toxic overload or poor nerve supply. Usually it's a combination of all these factors that lead to this downward progression of function. And so we have to start there. Cancer. If you wait until you feel it, wait until you get a symptom, how long do you have to wait typically? Yeah, an average of 20 years. 10 years, cancer is considered lethal. 8 years is usually the mark at which we're trying. So we're catching it really too late. So we have to start addressing this much, much sooner. So what are the impact of toxins? I'm going to run down this. I just listed a couple of the most common examples of what these are. So autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid would be a good example of that. If you know anyone that has rheumatoid, that as well as something like Hashimoto's or Sjogren's, which I think Cheryl covered in detail, all these things last time. Those are examples of contributed to by toxins. Respiratory conditions. So asthma is probably the most prominent one that people think of with that, but that can be a side effect of toxic exposure. Neurological disorders, dementia. That's one of the big things that we're afraid of with getting old. Nobody wants to live to 120 anymore because you will have no memory in the last 20 years. But toxic exposure is one of the main things that contributes to that. Hormone disruption, hypothyroid function. That's low thyroid function. That can be a result of toxic exposure. Weakened immune system. Shingles is a prominent example of that. Somebody's telling you, you need to go get your shingles shot. Shingles doesn't show up unless your immune system has been suppressed. And that often happens because of toxins. Digestive issues. And we'll talk about this with pesticides. IBS, diarrhea, those are signs that you have a toxic exposure. And skin conditions are usually a sign that something's going wrong in the gut. And if something's happening in the gut, it's going to lead to digestive issues with the immune system and show up on your skin as well. So acne or rashes are a good sign of that as well. So let's jump into this. Did you want to add anything to that list, Cheryl? Yes, you will. So I hinted at this, but we've got the toxic bucket theory of health and disease. So you can define it as that scale of 0 to 100% function, but how do you get symptoms? So there was an example that I was listening to in a podcast of this gal. She does a podcast called The Cultural Apothecary, and I can't remember her name offhand, of course, why would I remember her name? But she, for years and years, even though she was teaching this healthy lifestyle and bringing in all these people that are coaching or teaching about health and lifestyle, she was getting Botox injections because it made her look good. She's like, oh, it's just a little bit. The doctor says it's safe. It's fine. And so she went for years and years and years. And then 2 years ago, she got an injection. And then immediately afterwards, she felt awful, just like the floor dropped out from under her. And she went to all these different doctors. And eventually she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Now, she did not have any signs or symptoms of Hashimoto. If you watch her show, she's a very thin gal, very skinny. Looks like she's an athlete. Doesn't look like she'd have a health problem in the world. But now all of a sudden she has low thyroid because of this autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And she's like, how did I get this? And she was talking to these health people because that's her world. And they start talking about toxicity. She's like, Botox, what does Botox stand for? Botulinum toxin. Botulism, right? It's a small dose of botulism that they inject in people's faces that makes the skin tight and gets rid of wrinkles. And so this theory here basically says that all of us, we have a capacity that our bodies were designed to handle of anything. And it goes down the list here: chronic stress, processed foods, antibiotic use, pathogens, environmental toxins, frequent use of non-steroidal inflammatories, food sensitivities, and prescription drugs. Our bodies can handle some of those without really showing signs of being sick, although some of those are signs of being sick. So you get a little bit in there. You get a little bit in the bucket. The bucket can handle it. The bucket's strong. The bucket can hold some stuff. It's designed to hold some stuff. But then we get more of that stuff. Now the bucket's starting to fill up. We don't have much room left. But then we add one more thing, the straw that broke the camel's back. And all of a sudden it spills out and starts spilling over. And that's where we get the symptoms. In her case, now that I'm thinking about it, I think her name's Alex. I think Alex, and she would agree with me, that straw that broke the camel's back was that last injection. Now, there was a lot of other things going on along the way. Who knows what she was brushing her teeth with or putting on her body or showering with or whatever. And she's gone down this rabbit hole, and she talks about it on her show. But it was that one last thing. And some of you might be thinking to yourself, I remember that one thing. It felt really bad afterwards. And so this is where we really have to get into the roots of this. So first, let's debunk some common myths about toxins. So myth number one is if it's sold in stores, it's safe. So this is a partial truth or a half truth, right? Right? Because you can go to the store and you can get a bottle of bleach and you can drink it and it'll kill you, right? Don't do that. But if they clean the floor with the bleach every single day and you're smelling it all the time, you're smelling it every time you go to the bathroom, you go home and you clean with that same bleach and it's getting on your hands and you're breathing it in your lungs, it's going to slowly add to that toxic bucket, right? Just because it's sold doesn't mean it's safe. So an example of this, I'll get to in a second, is red number 3. Anybody hear about red number 3 recently? Yeah. So when did the FDA say it was unsafe to use in food? No, just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
They say it's unsafe to use in food. How long ago did they say it was unsafe to use in beauty products? 1990. They knew it caused cancer in animals in 1990, but they left it in the food supply, even though they removed it from the beauty supply. Was that 35 years ago? That they've been exposing us to this over and over. And so now you can't get that, but you can get you can get green 3. And so just because it's in our food supply doesn't. Myth number 2, organic products are always toxin free. And this is definitely not true. So let's take an example like chocolate. Chocolate is one of my favorite foods. It's a very healthy food. It's loaded with polyphenols, antioxidants, things that'll help you detox. But organic dark chocolate has one of the highest metal contents because organic foods tend to be the least processed, right? The least processed, so they're not actually pulling the heavy metals out as much as processed chocolate. And so I have problems with processed chocolate as well. You look at the sweeteners and the additives and the colors, but it doesn't mean that it's safe just because it's organic. And on top of that, organic doesn't mean pesticide free, it just means it's organic pesticide, right? So the only way to guarantee that you're not getting pesticide is if you grow it yourself without pesticide. Interesting. Myth number 3, small exposures don't matter, right? I only get like a pea size of that toothpaste every day, twice a day for every single day of my life. And what happens is that just accumulates. What happens if you put a bucket under a leaky faucet? Is that bucket ever going to fill up? Yeah, obviously the more we turn up the handle, the faster it's going to fill up. But a little bit at a time eventually adds up. And where do we see most of the chronic disease burden? It's growing in kids, but it's highest in adults and the older adults the most. You look at, when are people most likely to die of heart disease and cancer? It's over the age of 70, right? And so we have to make sure we're doing things on the front end as much as possible, but especially on the back end as we get closer to filling that bucket up. We got to start learning how to drain that bucket in a safe and healthy manner. So this is the study I was, or the red 3. So they banned it finally just this year, right before RFK got into Secretary of Health. But it was banned in cosmetics in 1990. It's crazy. So the reality of regulations, the FDA does not require pre-market safety testing for personal care products. The way that we address toxicity in our country is it's safe until proven dangerous. In Europe, it's the opposite. It's dangerous until proven safe. And so companies in Europe, if they're going to give it to European populations to use, it has to be tested and shown safe in the research, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials to show that it's safe. Whereas here, it's like, no, it's safe. It didn't cause cancer in the first 3 days that we started using it, so why would anybody get cancer later? And that's where we get like the Erin Brockovich movies, right? Movies like that really kind of show that. So yeah, 11 toxic chemicals in cosmetics. That's it, that are regulated in the United States. 1,300 in Europe. I think I said 13,000. So correct.
Also, Food and Drug Administration doesn't do much for cosmetics at all. Their umbrella.
Yeah.
So they're not overseeing.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, EPA is supposed to be more of that, but they don't have any like enforcement on it. So
And even supplements are not approved by the FDA because they're not.
Food and Drug. Yeah. All right, so let's jump into this. So step number 1 is we have to identify and reduce toxins at the source. So I'm going to have Cheryl come up here. We're going to kind of go back and forth. We're going to go through this. So again, our goal here is not to scare you. We want to empower you. So let's jump in. Oh yeah, perfect podcast out here. That's one. All right, so hidden dangers.
Well, there you go. What, I mean, like it says low fat, they add sugar, they add other things to it to make it taste good because they have to take the fat out. 0 calories. They're adding baked sugar, the fructose, the sucralose, whatever they're adding to that. Bright colors, I think we covered that with food dye number 3. Interestingly, I was watching GMA 3 over the lunch hour, and they were talking about red dye number 3. And I was like, well, why does your food need to have color in it anyway? To make it more appetizing, to make you want to eat it, because if it was kind of a grayish color, who'd eat it, right? Even our medications, if you think about pills, they've got food dye in them to make them different colors. It's not all just the chemicals that they are. Addictive additives, what's the number 1 addictive additive? Addictive. Sugar. Exactly. Sugar, very much addictive. And then sucralose, MSG, dyes, corn syrup, artificial ingredients, kind of go by the rule of thumb. If I can't pronounce it, it's not good for me. Type of a thing is really where we need to go with that. I was just talking to my daughter this afternoon, and she's going to France this week. And she was telling me, which I didn't realize before, but they have in Paris, they have an American store. And when she was there 5 years ago, she went to this American store because she was dying and desperate for Mountain Dew. I know, but she went there to buy this Mountain Dew, but it has to be made in Europe because most of the things that they put in the Mountain Dew here are illegal in Europe. So they had to make their own in Europe, and she said it was the worst stuff I've ever tasted. And she's not even going to buy. She's going to bypass that store altogether and go without while she's there. Also, California regulates what can be in their food products a whole lot closer than the rest of the country. And I think it was Skittles. If you live in California or if you buy Skittles in California, they're produced with different things than they are for the other 49 states because California prohibits certain chemicals in foods like that. So, yeah, kind of scary. Everybody thinks California is kind of radical, which maybe they are on some things, but when it comes to chemicals that are harmful, probably a good thing they are. So toxic ingredients, like it says, over 90% of Americans have detectable levels of pesticide residue in their bodies. And we don't know. I mean, nobody's like Dr. Jake said, nobody's going to test you for those toxins until they can't find anything else wrong with you. And I can't tell you how many in my experience as an RN, that's testing for toxic metals is way down low on the bottom of the list of what we're going to test people for because they run through the whole gamut and they don't think of those types of things. There are a few epidemiologists, a few infectious diseases doctors in this city that would think of those, but the vast majority, because it's not something that they look for, it's not on their top list of priorities.
I practiced in Georgia and Florida before moving up here. Georgia was a pretty, good range of population, old, young, middle age. When I got to Florida, obviously more retirement age, we had patients that were decades old, some of the oldest patients here in Calgary tonight. And I did not see very many autoimmune patients. I saw a little bit of rheumatoid here and there, but nothing crazy. And I get here, and within the first year, I ran into some of the most rare things that in school they're like, oh, you might see one of these in practice. And I had seen like 5 or 6 in the first year. And I point to this. I point to the pesticides specifically because it gets in our groundwater. And then our water filtration is designed to get some of the most dangerous stuff out, but not the toxic stuff, not the stuff that when it accumulates in your system starts to create chronic. So what are the alternatives here? So we want to choose clean whole foods. So number one, the easiest thing you can do to make sure you're getting the most out is just buy everything organic. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean everything is safe, right? That's just a good step in the right direction. You're going to cover a lot of things when you do it that way. So when you're doing this, though, you should prioritize how it says produce. I would actually say animal products first, and then prioritize the dirty dozen. So that'll be this. I'll pop a picture up what those were last year. They ended up having 25 of this stuff. But yeah, those are the foods that are sprayed with the most pesticides. Next, choose grass-fed and wild-caught as far as your animal products. So we do want them to be organic, but grass-fed and wild-caught is actually better because that reduces the amount of pesticides that they're exposed to, and so then they don't accumulate those as well. Wild-caught is referring to fish in particular, and that's becoming harder and harder to get clean. But if you're going to go with an ocean source, go specific wild-caught, if at all possible. And we want to ditch processed foods. Really, if you ditch processed foods completely, you're going to take care of most of it. Just kind of like moving to organic. If you just move off of processed foods, even off of organic processed foods, you're going to do way, way better than even eating organic processed foods, just because you're getting rid of a lot of the artificial chemicals and things that are. So you want to focus on those fresh, whole ingredients, real foods, and then read labels. So I just sent around several bottles of things, and I saw some of you do exactly what to do. You turn it sideways, you start to look at it, and you probably got this. You're like, oh yeah, look, it's got fruit on the bottle. That looks healthier. And then you see water, pure cane sugar is the second ingredient there. And so this is like halfway up the scale here of good. This is a better option. The reason why it's empty is because I gave it to my kids after their soccer game. It's a better option than the Gatorade for sure. And I tell my kids, if they give you a Gatorade, take it, say thank you, bring it to me, I'll give you a body armor. But really, what we tried to do is we tried to use, where's the box at in the back? Oh yeah, Marcia has the box, the MetaPower Recharge, which is trace minerals and electrolytes to help replenish your body for a workout or after a workout. So read the labels, look what's in there. You won't see any artificial colors in there. You didn't see any artificial colors in here either. But on that guy, we definitely did. And you saw the amount of sugar in that one and that one compared to this one. There's hardly any sugar in there as well. But then we're also looking for not just sweeteners, artificial or natural, but also dyes and preservatives. So this is the Dirty Dozen list from 2024. So if you're doing all foods, I would start with meat, cheese, milk, eggs, not so much because those are a little bit more contained. You still want free range eggs if at all possible. Pasture raised better. But then strawberries were number one, spinach, kale colored, and mustard greens, grapes, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, bells and hot peppers, cherries, blueberries, and green beans. Those were the foods that were considered most toxic, dirty, dozen. And so, you know, you can look at these and you see, okay, this is all soft skin foods. And so a good rule of thumb is if it's a soft skin food, if you can bite into it, then you probably need to get it organic. Even better than that, get it in season, because if you get it in season, it doesn't require as much pesticides. If you can get it organic and in season, you're going to get that much better. So look out for those foods. I don't have the Clean 15 from last year up, but I would say just, you know, especially if you're on a budget, this is what you start with. Animal products, and then go into the dirty dozen. So your anti-inflammatory foods and your antioxidants, we want to get more antioxidants in there because they help us to detoxify from free radicals. One of the biggest things about some of the foods and cleaners on that end of the table is they release free radicals in our system. Free radicals actually will manipulate cellular DNA and cause those cells to not die and grow uncontrollably and cause cancer. Exactly. So these are the foods that are highest in those. You got your berries. Vitamin C is one of the strongest antioxidants that we know. Polyphenols. They also help fight inflammation. Leafy greens, spinach, kale, chard. They have chlorophyll in there, which helps detoxify. Turmeric and ginger. anti-inflammatory compounds such as curcumin. That's what we get out of turmeric. Turmeric by itself, without the curcumin, would just be yellow. That's what they put in mustard to make it yellow. Curcumin is what makes that powerful. Then we've got healthy fats, like avocados, nuts, olive oil. They reduce inflammation markers, but they do it at cellular level by giving your body what it needs in order to re-wrap those cells in healthy phospholipid bilayers. So allowing the cell to get toxins out and get good stuff in. And so that's why healthy fats are so important. And then green tea, it's rich in catechins, which help the body flush out toxins. So if you can get green tea in regularly, especially like a decaffeinated green tea, that is really good. Now, the good thing, other than the healthy fats, is when I gave you guys that BMG Plus, you all got a little bit of all those things and that. So that's awesome.
One other thing I want to add to the previous slide, when I was watching GMA3 and they were talking about red dye number 3, they were also talking about some healthier ways to dye your Easter eggs. Turmeric was on their list and coffee was on their list. So
Yep.
a little bit healthier ways to dye the Easter eggs.
Spirulina does a really good blue, and beet juice.
Since it's, getting that time of year. Okay, so food prep. The average person consumes about 50,000 microplastic particles per year through food, water, and air. There have been several studies on recently about finding microplastics when they're doing autopsies. Little tiny pieces of plastic that, again, you have to see under the microscope. But you can see the plastic that you have your food in, your to-go boxes, saran wrap, Tupperware, all those types of things leach out little pieces of plastic. Not only is it in your food, it's in your water, it's in the ocean water. There's a lot of places that are trying to clean up ocean water because they're finding, plastic bottles, the plastic rings that hold the 6-pack together, those types of things. And they're actually finding a lot of plastic, like I said, even autopsy in patients. So again, kind of like we're going back a little bit, your body can handle, but as your toxic bucket gets fuller, that's when you're starting to get more and more sick because of all the plastic.
What do we do? Oh, we got to swap it out. So plastics, do not store liquids in plastic. Do not store liquids in plastic. One of the things that sickens me most is actually the Costco rotisserie chickens. They used to be in like a hard plastic, which is a little bit better, but now they got it wrapped in a plastic bag, which is way less stable, and it's completely surrounding it, whereas before it was over top and it was underneath. It was only touching the bottom, so you could avoid most of the plastic just by eating off the top. Now it's just completely wrapped around. It's all touching plastic. So really what you want, if it's going to be hot or cold, then you want it to be in glass. If it's going to be liquid, you want it to be in glass. You can also have stainless steel containers. Those don't leach as much. You can still find glass with BPA. You can still find things wrong with these things. Stainless steel, I know there was a thing with some of the insulated mugs where the weld on the bottom of the mug had lead in it. And so everybody was carrying these $50 mugs around and getting lead exposures through that. So check the bottom of your cup for that weld bead. If it has a weld bead, do not use that. Throw it out. It's not good for anybody. I wouldn't even want to store sand in that thing. Just watch out for that. But if it's just stainless steel, if it doesn't have that weld bead in the bottom, it's just smooth all the way through the bottom, then it's fine. So yeah, avoid those plastics. Now, if you're storing dry rice in plastic, that's fine. It's not going to leach into the rice, not unless you're heating it up or down the line. Or if you're putting water in that rice in the plastic. But then definitely don't put the plastic into the microwave. At the same time, heat up the plastic on top of the food. That's insane. Non-stick cookware. So a lot of you guys know, because I've been saying it every single year since I opened, the EPA has said we need to remove Teflon from the market because of how endocrine disruptive it is and likely carcinogenic. They said in 2010 that it should have been removed from the market. They said in 2011 it should have been removed from the market. Every single year they said it should have been removed from the market. And remember how I said the EPA has no, they cannot enforce, they have no enforcement wing? They can't, they can just recommend. And nobody takes them at their word because none of us want our eggs to stick. Never mind that if you stick a canary over that pan, even 6 feet up where they're not getting any heat, the gases from the Teflon are the big signs in the coal mine of, this is a toxic gas. And so if you want non-stick, what you need to do is go to cast iron or stainless steel. And you might say, oh, Dr. Jake, but I cook with stainless steel and it always sticks. My eggs always stick. You're doing it wrong. Here's how you get stainless steel not to stick. Put it on the stove, turn up the heat to medium. Let it sit there every 2-3 minutes. Take a little bit of water, flick it onto the pan. If it beads up and runs around, I forget the name of the effect. Okay, but if it beads up and it runs around the pan, it's now non-stick. If it just sizzles or if it sits in the pan, it's still going to stick. I cook eggs in stainless steel all the time, and I rarely stick it to the pan unless I just forget. I'm like, oh, pan heat, crack, oh, shoot. Then it's like, yeah, I'm going to have a layer of egg that thick on the bottom. But stainless steel, when it warms up, the rings in it basically, they come together and they fill the gaps in it. So you put oil in after that water starts to heat up. And then you can cook with it. So those are the easy kitchen swaps.
Water. You've got the, I think you've got the slide in here. but,
Yeah, it's coming next.
yeah. So heavy metals, I mean, you'd be surprised, and we're gonna show you what's just in the water. But everything that we put on the ground, in the air, it all gets washed into our rivers, and that's where our water comes from. It may come from Canada, it may come from Kansas, any number of other places that we're getting, smoke and pollution and fire. Chlorine and chloramide, again, we're gonna put that in a lot of things, our swimming pools, so that we don't get disease from somebody else. Fluoride. Somebody has just now proposed, maybe it's a town in Nebraska, I think, has just now proposed they're gonna take all the fluoride out of their water. I can't remember, it was just something in the last week or so. This is a state.
There was a state that was.
A state, not ours. I
Yeah,
think.
no, I've seen it pop up around the country.
Yeah.
Cities, but yeah, recently.
Recently.
It's like Arizona and New Mexico. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Pesticides and herbicides, I think we've talked quite a bit about pesticides. Just a little hint, a little story. I grew up in a small town out by Grand Island, farming community. My daughter, my brother's daughter, and a very good friend of mine who grew up about 2 miles from me, her daughter, all have autoimmune diseases. You think that's not a coincidence? Probably from the pesticides that we were exposed to. And it didn't mess us up, but all of our 3 daughters all have autoimmune diseases. They were all diagnosed in their early 20s. They're all doing okay. They're all managing their disease processes, but it's still, and there are several other people in that community who have kids with autoimmune diseases as well. So what it was, we're not sure. Pharmaceutical residues. A lot of people, what do you do when you're done with a prescription? Well, there's, I guess, 2 things you do when you're done with a prescription. Number 1, save it for the next time I have the same signs and symptoms, which is never a good idea. Oh, it's only expired by 2 years. I won't tell you how old some of the prescriptions were when I was cleaning my mother's house. The doctor had been retired for 10 years or more. But it just doesn't work quite as well as it used to. Or they throw them in the garbage can, and what happens to that? Goes in the trash, the landfill, water. Yeah, or just mix it, and this is what you hear on the commercials, just mix it with kitty litter or coffee grounds and then throw it out. And it still ends up in the same place. It still ends up in the same place. I'm not 100% sure how the pharmacies do it, but I know a lot of pharmacies will take back medications. You just take your bottles and put them in a big bin and they dispose of them somehow. But it probably ends up in our water supply.
Prescription drugs.
The PFAs, forever chemicals, microplastics, like we've already kind of talked about, and then volatile organic compounds, all found in water supply.
Here's ours.
Here's Lincoln's water. As you can see, arsenic is 1,656 times the EWG's guidelines. Bromodichloromethane, 156 times. I mean, you can just see everything 273, 71, 171, all over the place.
Cancer,
Yeah.
cancer, 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 cancer. That one doesn't happen. Cancer.
Yeah.
Next one. Cancer, cancer, cancer. Yeah. Those are just the most common.
Yeah, so massive.
So what do we want to do? Want to get that stuff out as much as possible. So there's no way. I've talked to several guys that do water, like this is their. There's no way to get everything. It's just there's too much stuff. But you can reduce the levels down. You can get them down to quote unquote safe levels, right? Micro doses. And so a cheap way to do that, a cheap way to start if you're still have tap water, would be something like an Aquasana filter. The filter is about $50 to replace, depending on your family size. They're recommended to replace the filter about once every 6 months to once a year. The best way to do it is reverse osmosis filter. And you can get different levels of these, but a reverse osmosis filter, it's going to take everything out, including the trace minerals that most groundwater has. And so you do want to add trace minerals back in, but that gets the most out. But then you'll need to add like a fluoride filter as well, as reverse osmosis does not get fluoride. And we do that pretty often. Some people ask about, well, what about bottled water? Well, most bottled water is just glorified tap water. And on top of that, what kind of plastic do they usually put bottled water in? Is it hard plastic? Soft plastic, and that's where you get most of that active dose of microplastics. And so if you're going to get bottled water, get glass. Glass is best. You can get BPA-free plastic, but that's not the only thing wrong with plastics, right? You still don't want a BPA-free credit card, in your system every 2 weeks. So, just get glass if you're going to buy bottled water. But better yet is to invest in your home in getting a whole house system. You want it in your shower. You want it on your tap water as well, so that you're getting it out of your fridge. The fridge waters that they say they listen to a few professionals talk about how all those lines have mold. Doesn't matter if you're changing your filter, the lines themselves build up mold. So don't get it out of your fridge. Get it filtered.
Oh, the ones that.
Yeah.
Water and ice on it?
Yeah,
Oh,
water
okay.
dispensers in our fridge because those lines. So even if you invest in a really expensive filter for your fridge, you gotta do it somewhere else. Just disconnect that. Don't worry about it. Use the extra fridge or freezer space.
Another problem with the bottled water is transportation. As it heats up and cools down, as it's heating, and that's releasing those microplastics as well.
All right, trusted brands. How many people trust Colgate? First, I've just seen that. Did I pass this around already? Yep. As you guys can see, television as well.
Oh, you can do it. Get rid of that.
Oh, Crestworks for that.
Crestworks.
Colgate
Colgate.
does?
It also works as like if you put a hole in your drywall and you fill the patch. Yeah, it works really well for that. But I will be using that for that. It still
Yeah, I know
isn't
when
dried
you-
up at that point.
When you're living out of your rental.
Yeah.
You catch it up.
Small holes.
It
so like
does.
Little nails and stuff.
Yeah.
toothpaste.
Can't be a big one. You can't
Yes.
like
Yeah,
put new.
anybody otherwise.
So yeah, only 1% of chemicals in consumer products are tested.
And what's Coca-Cola used for?
Cleaning up blood.
Cleaning up blood, battery acid, battery acid.
So I use this. I was in the middle of not to drink it. I used it to clean up popcorn machine. There's so much burn stuff on the bottom of it. Sitting that in it for about 12 hours, took it right off. I didn't even have to scrub it. It's amazing.
Yeah, you can clean the toilet.
Toilet, it does a great job.
Yeah.
Can I interject something real quick about that?
Yeah.
My son used to collect pump cans,
Mm-hmm.
put them underneath the sink in the bathroom downstairs. They were all rotted out. It's just like they were
Just right through. Yeah. Cleaning products, not very safe. So about 5 years ago, I bought a Costco sized bottle of this stuff, thinking that because it was lavender flavored, it must be a healthier version. I didn't think to test it. Well, 2 years go by, I'm using it on the floors. I'm like, "Man, that smells kind of toxic, like just a lot." And then I look it up in the environmental working group, and it's 10 out of 10 for most toxicity. So I've got a big bottle back there that I used to use for a display. I asked April to give me a smaller bottle from Dollar Tree so I could fit more stuff on the table. I was like, I mean, just, it doesn't even have the ingredients on here. Yeah, it doesn't have to list it on the cleaning products. And these things are awful. These are on the worst of the worst. Kills 99% of germs. What's it doing to you? You're 10 times more germ than you are a person. And it's killing you just as easily. Bleach, of course, let's avoid that. That's an awful way to do that. Comment. It'll take everything off of your bathtub, including you. Right? So, just avoid that stuff. And then, I have the, mouthwash. We just found in the research, peer-reviewed, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, that if you use alcohol-based mouthwash, you are escalating your risk of cardiovascular disease. Right? And we've been using this stuff for decades, right? Just as good to using turpentine. Right? So you got to do something different. You got to move off of some of this stuff. So detoxing your home. So this is actually the reason I got into doTERRA stuff, right? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic, we're getting exposed to like hand sanitizers and bleaching everything and these wipes on shopping carts, and it's literally killing us and making us sick and suppressing our immune systems. There's got to be a better way to do this. And so we started cleaning the office with On Guard and diffusing all this stuff. So we got balance in here right now, which is great for the nervous system as opposed to bleach, which actually is nerve cells. We've got the Abode, which is very stimulating cleaner. In the bathroom right now, I think we're using we use the dish soap for the hand soap because it's so soft on your hands. It's just so much better for you than using hand soap anymore. They've got a laundry detergent. They've got laundry pods. They've got dishwasher pods as well as the dish soap. So doTERRA, I didn't get because I wanted to sell you oils. I want to give you guys alternatives that are safe for you to use. And just so happens that they have amazing supplements as well. And so some of the stuff I recommend doTERRA for, and then obviously, we could go through this entire book and just kind of, remove all the side effects from all of your medications by switching you to a natural version that can address all of the symptoms that just chiropractic and nutrition haven't been able to get rid of. And so that's why we have this book out all the time, so that you can look up, what am I taking medication for? Oh, let's try these oils instead and see how my body responds. And some of it's supplements, and we're here to coach on that. Some of you, it's like, oh, you're taking this med, you shouldn't take this oil with that. And so Cheryl will help coach with that. But these are some things that I just have. It's just a great way to get started. The other thing is you can go home, and this is what I recommend. So homework tonight, right? Homework tonight. download these apps and start going in, because it actually has like barcode scanners on it. And you can go in and you can scan the back of your Kiss My Face toothpaste or the box. This doesn't actually have a barcode scanner on it. You can type it into the app as well. And it'll say, this is a 3 out of 10, this is a 4 out of 10, or this is a 10 out of 10. And my challenge to you is when you go identify these things, that then you start removing the most toxic. Just go ahead and just throw it in the trash because it's not good for anybody. And then as you start using up the rest of the ones that aren't as bad for you, then you go and you aim for the 0. Aim for the one that's the least toxic and start to replace it that way. So for beauty products, that's Skin Deep, and that's an app that's going to take you to a download link for an app on your phone. If that's how you can also use it from the website and just look stuff up on the Skin Deep. The cleaning products, so this is a list of the cleaners and you can type those in. And there's also the Yuka app, and that can help you identify those things as well. So that's where I would start as far as homework. Personal care products, things that you're looking at here. I was just rolling.
Yeah, go ahead. Parabens, phthalates, formaldehyde. What do we use formaldehyde? For, yeah, not cremation, but preserve bodies. Artificial fragrances. Again, I think we've talked about sodium lauryl sulfate a few times. It was in several of those products over there. But these things are going to help preserve you, but make you sick of the process. Parabens, those are waxes, which is, of course, an oil-based product.
So I got these donated probably about a year ago. I was talking to one of the guys about why all of a sudden you start getting headaches. And it was to cover up the scent of someone cooking in the apartment next door. And I said, well, kids open the window, like now too cold. So I've been using these Glade plugins. One of the most toxic things that you'd think they just put essential oils in these things. But when you look at the actual ingredients, it's all that stuff, especially the artificial fragrances, those are neurotoxic and they will disrupt you. And they're in most of the cleaners as well. So get these out of your house. I would throw them in the trash, but I have to put the example on here for you guys. It's in plastic. I should probably double up the plastic. I'm expecting that oil to start leaking out every day. So air filtration, we need to filter our air as well. One of the best ways to do that, I used to have a diagram here. The diagram went away, is plants. There's a lot of really great indoor plants that you can use to help filter this stuff out. I think the snake plant is one of them. Aloe vera is another good filtering plant for indoor. Mother-in-law's tongue.
I don't know what it looks like, but I see that on.
Yeah, I can imagine. I have a mother-in-law. It might be the same, yeah. They get named different things in different cultures.
Yeah.
So yeah, filter out your air. You can buy air filters as well. Diffusers are great. I love these because I get to choose my scents, right? I can literally buy something that helps to clean the air. Something like lemon oil does a really good job. Mhm.
John Henry's has got a little deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can buy more expensive things than just the filters that you slide in and slide out every 3 months, right? Yeah, and that's attached to it. Yeah. And we've got another client, patient, that she actually has a diffuser built into her HVAC system, where she can go in and she can drip oils into that, and it'll help circulate it through her house. So that's good. So step 1 was identify and remove. Now we have to eliminate toxins from our system. It's not just enough to stop poisoning ourselves. Now we have to allow our body to cleanse them out. It'll do some of that naturally, but the more compromised your function is, the harder that's going to be to do. So let's jump into how we do this. So when we look at the way toxins come in, it's going to come in through the lungs, it's going to come in through the skin, and it's going to come in through the gut, small intestine, most. Those things are going to enter into the bloodstream at that point. The liver's job is to start filtering that out and to move it appropriately around the body to where it should or shouldn't be. So some stuff will get out through the skin. Some stuff will get out through the kidneys. Some stuff will go out through the colon, and some stuff will go out through the lungs. However, if you get too much, right, that bucket starts to overflow, those pathways get jammed. And so then your body has to decide, where do I put this stuff? It goes into fat cells. And so last month I hinted that we would be talking more about weight loss resistance. This is it. When you're toxic, when you have too much toxic exposure, your fat cells are the storage point for those toxins because your body knows fat cells don't have good vasculature. And so it builds up in those fat cells. And the fat cells will surround it almost like a tumor would. Like it would just encapsulate it and prevent it from getting to your organs or getting to your brain or getting to the nerves or getting to the blood supply. And so then you go, oh, I need to lose some weight. I need to get rid of some body fat. And you go and you start working out, which we'll talk about here in just a second, and you can't get rid of this stinking belly fat. Guess what's in there? All those chemicals that we couldn't get rid of. And so a good sign that that's starting to build up in your skin, that rash, start getting that acne. Good sign that it's in your kidneys. You're starting to go to the bathroom a little bit more frequently. It's trying to get out. It's trying to get out. You know, your colon, you start getting diarrhea, or worse, you get constipation because it actually the chemical is breaking up and making fecal material too dry. And then your lungs, oh man, I'm starting to have a immune response in my lungs. I'm coughing up all this like phlegm or fluid. I must need a Mucinex or something to prevent all this mucus from coming up. What's that mucus holding? Toxins. You're literally trying to cough it out or sneeze it out. And we want to go and we want to suppress that, right? You know, we want to go address the symptom as opposed to actually getting at the cause of this. So how do we do that? Well, we talked last month about the foundational three, and we went into this. I remember Marsha pulled me aside afterwards, and I was asking her, what was something that you learned? She's like, microplastics. I had no idea we were consuming so many plastics. And I was like, isn't it great that we have a tool that helps you get rid of that? One of the probiotics that is in our digestion and detox is specifically in there because it eats microplastics and turns it into organic. This product here, this digestion and detox, is the best prebiotic, best probiotic, best parabiotic, best postbiotic, best digestive enzyme I have ever taken. And it's all of those things in, well, 3 capsules. We recommend 3 per day with them, but all that in just one supplement. That's why it's part of the foundation. It's great for so many things when you're talking about digestion, but it's also even better for detox. And so that combined with the rest of the foundational 3 are on sale tonight. We got some last month. You're probably running low if you're taking them the way you're supposed to, and it's time to stock up. So we're giving you 15% off if you're getting the foundational 3. This is what I'm starting every new patient off with now. If they're coming in for chiropractic because their back hurts, they're getting inflammation and immune support. If they're coming in because they have autoimmune conditions, they're getting digestion and detox with inflammation and immune support. And if they are coming in because they want to be healthy, then they get all 3. And you guys are here because you want to be healthy. So what do I recommend? All 3. This is what I'm taking every single day. I actually, I do the VMG Plus on top of that because there's like some magnesium in there that I can't get. And I do a mega supplement as well because there's no way to fit enough magnesium and omegas in here. On top of that, those are still essential micronutrients that we need. But if you do that, you're going to cover your bases really, really well. If you're looking for essential oils, where do I start, right? Whether it's replacing Glade plugins or it's addressing some of the things that are house, I recommend the Healthy Start Kit. It's because it has all these things. So lavender, just thinking about detox, and especially this time of year, why do we all get a little sniffly? Because histamine, right? Pollen and histamine response. Lavender helps promote a healthy histamine response. It's fantastic. Lemon, great cleaner. You put a drop or 2 of that in a spray bottle in water, and you can clean up your kitchen counters and clean up even like chicken slime off of it. Peppermint, If you're having trouble breathing because everything's clogged up here, a little peppermint right on your chest, the menthol in there will help come off of there, help you breathe a little bit better. Also give you a jolt boost in the morning. Tea tree, same like or not same, but similar menthol, but it's also antimicrobial. And so if you're wanting to get some of the microbes out of your life, oregano, if you're ever fighting a virus, oregano is fantastic for fighting viruses. Frankincense, skin, it's great for that, but it's also great if you want cellular health as well. It's like the mother of all oils. Deep blue is our pain oil. It's applied topically to any joint that's giving you issues. Breathe, it's kind of a mixture of like peppermint and tea tree and eucalyptus and several other menthol heavy oils. It does even better than the peppermint at opening up airways. And then the digestion is a combination of several different oils that really help with the digestion, including peppermint. That's one of the ones that got. And then On Guard is the immune support blend. So making sure that your immune system is healthy and is on. So that's why I recommend Healthy Start for people that haven't gotten into doTERRA or essential oils before. This is the smallest amount when you can get all of them at a pretty good price. It's about 165. Comes with that diffuser as well. And because of where I'm at in doTERRA right now, there's a bunch of freebies that you get if you get a kit like this today. So if you haven't gotten a kit yet, you haven't gotten a doTERRA membership, then you should definitely sign up for that as well. So let's jump into exercise. Exercise is another thing that we need to be doing for detoxification every single day. Every single day. We should be moving every single day. Exercise, challenging our bodies, making sure that we're able to do the things that we need to do. But really, to get the detox going, that sweat is so important. If you want to get microplastics out, right? Sweat is its own traffic. It has to come out through sweat. So if you're not sweating, those microplastics are building up. And so sweating is fantastic. Now, if you can't break a sweat while you're exercising, guess what you should get in? The sauna. Give it 2-3 sessions, you will start to break a sweat. If you can't break a sweat, it's fantastic. The blood flow is also an important part of this because there are areas of your body that your heart just cannot pump blood to on its own. It requires movement and the movement of blood to get there. And so you want to get some of these nutrients in the right place. You want to get some of these antioxidants, and to get the free radicals out, you actually have to move. The sauna will not do that for you. Unfortunately, you can't replace exercise with the sauna. You still have to get out and have a walk. Even better, if you can do 10 air squats every hour for 8 hours a day. Yeah, 10 air squats takes like 10 seconds. You're just up and down. That actually does it even better than walking around for 30 minutes with. But 140 is the sweet spot, and 15 minutes, 3 days a week, so 45 minutes a week. And we see an increase in longevity by about 5 years from that consistent. And so the sauna is a really fantastic thing. Stress can also be toxic. Anybody experience that? You get stressed and then you get sick, or most of my cases, you go to school, you get finals, and then the week afterwards, you get sick because that stress of staying up all night and studying and obviously cramming at the last minute, because that's the best way to do it, right, Cheryl?
Yes, and not eating, and just drinking
Yeah.
caffeine.
Oh yeah, Monster drinks and Red Bulls and yeah,
Snickers and.
all that great stuff. No, so it builds up in our system. It puts us into the fight or flight response, the sympathetic nervous system. And so now all we want is the simple, easy carbs, which come best in processed foods that are all on this end of the table, right? You're staying up late and you're just chugging these. How much money I wasted threw down the drain on stuff like that in school. It's toxic, right? And it reinforces a toxic lifestyle. So we want to make sure that we're reducing stress. But what's the best way to reduce stress? That's a great way. The best way, the best research is actually that prayer and praise are the two best ways to reduce stress in your life. Why? It's the only way you can give that stress to somebody else. It's the only way. Cast all your cares on him, right? So this is also a great introduction. I think you recognize this picture, don't you? I wanted to introduce all you guys to our new massage therapist, Mr. Benjamin Michlo. He's going to be coming on here in the next, are we down to a week and a half? something like that, the 14th. Yeah, so a week. Yeah, we're literally a week from when we're going to start off. So I want to give him a minute to introduce himself and talk about how he's going to be helping us out here in the office.
Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm Benjamin. I've been practicing for about the last 3 years. I've kind of seen some of you guys already. And I've been connected with Dr. Jake a few months ago, and then we've been talking back and forth about how we can best help people here in Lincoln. And we've been kind of seeing as we go back and forth, that might be more together, being able to look at, from a structural component, the spine, what's going on with that, but also the soft tissues, the muscular actions of, how we're moving as a body. A simple way to kind of understand that is, as I take a step to the left, my hip, my body starts turning to the right. When I take another step, turning to the other side. But what happens sometimes, you get stuck a little more into one side compared to the other. And then that starts, so you can imagine if I'm stuck a little bit into my right side, my body feels more comfortable grounding into that right side. When I go and lift up this arm, it's far harder than if I'm neutral and I can lift it up a lot easier. So I kind of have a mix between exercise and doing some strengthening, and also some of the soft tissue work to help our bodies be able to move properly from one side to the next. When we do that, all of a sudden we start seeing the body being able to move better. And when you move better, you feel better. And also sometimes you're just feeling a little sore. And a massage is a great way to also help you just go through that relaxation. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, welcome, Benjamin. So I'm really excited. I've always, ever since even before I went to chiropractic school, I've always known that massage is very valuable. Benjamin's going to give us a little bit new aspect to it. I know a lot of you have gone for relaxation massages, and April and Sherilyn and I chit-chatted a little bit, and we're like,
Yeah, we have a
he's not
bonus
putting us to
again.
sleep. So you're probably not going to fall asleep on his table, but he is going to help you get faster results with the chiropractic. And I was talking to somebody else about that over the weekend. Just his breathing work that he's help you guys do is going to really help reduce some of the head forward posture that you guys walk around with. So I'm really excited about that. But here's the thing, guys. Your body is designed to detox. We talked about the liver, we talked about the kidneys, we talked about sweating, we talked a little bit about the respiratory system, the digestive system. I didn't really mention the lymphatic system, but it is a major part of that. What is the system that controls all those parts? The nervous system. When we're talking about function, we have to go back to the nervous system. For your heart to beat, for your lungs to breathe, for a cut on your leg to go, for the liver to take those things in and flush them out and put them in the appropriate ways, for the kidneys to get it out through the urine and through the bladder, for the bladder to be able to open and close. Signals have to run from the brain down the spinal cord and out the nerves to every organ, cell, and tissue. It doesn't happen any other way. We know that because if we sever the brainstem, what happens to every organ, cell, and tissue? Does it stay really good or does it die? It dies. Some of the time or all the time? All the time. If we cut all the nerves that go to the heart, it dies. If we cut the nerves that go to the liver, how well do you think the liver is going to function? If we pinch the nerves that go to the liver, it might not die today, it might not die tomorrow, it might not even die 6 months from now. But that slow trickle of nerve supply to the liver is eventually going to lead to liver disease. That liver disease is ultimately going to lead to a toxic buildup. It's going to lead to all sorts of different cancers and endocrine disruptions. And so the most important thing I do is not relieve your pain. That might be why some of you guys hire me. But my main goal for you is not that you feel good, it's that you function as close to 100% as possible, because that's ultimately what matters. That's what allows you to step into the purposes and plans that God has for you. Plans to prosper and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. That's what I want for each and every one. Right? That's why we started the foundation. That's why we do this for homeless people on Fridays at no charge. Because I want that for them too. Like every time you get adjusted, you're actually getting adjusted for two people. That's the way that we have to set up the foundation. So health is 100% function. The nervous system controls that function. Chiropractic removes interference from that decrease in function. It's incredible. How many patients have we had that have had digestive issues? Through chiropractic, their digestive issues have improved. Their detoxification has improved. I mean, I can think of at least 3 people in this room when we've talked about it improving. You guys know who you are. So what are warning signs? What are warning signs of subluxation of the nervous system? We'll start at the top. Balance issues, hearing issues. That was the first adjustment, was hearing issues. Guy got in an accident with a horse. 20 years he couldn't hear, gets an adjustment, all of a sudden he can hear. That's how chiropractic was born. The vision changing, when I was a student in chiropractic school, you know, some of the only people that would let me practice on were my brother-in-law and my sister. My brother-in-law had a really bad prescription for his glasses. And after adjusting him for a couple months, he started not being able to see quite as well. And he went to his eye doctor and said, well, your prescription improved. That's why. It's your glasses that are the problem. So I had to change his prescription because his vision got better. We go down, we go to the middle of the neck. You know, you can get, you know, problems in the middle of the neck from irritation in the nervous system. You can also get low thyroid or high thyroid, you know, hormonal issues. We go down to the upper back, get that stress across the shoulders, elevates your blood pressure. The nerves that control blood pressure to the heart, right in the middle of the upper back. We go down, the nerves in the mid back, they come out to the upper digestive system. That's where your liver is. That mid back there, where everybody gets that hump when they get old. That's where your liver is controlled. We got to get that up. Get that up. We come down here, and we go into the low back. You get spastic muscles in your low back. You can get a spastic colon the exact same way. Pressure on the nerves coming out there. We go a little bit lower. The nerves that create sciatica run down the leg, also control the bladder, the digestive organs, the lower digestive organs, colon and the rectum. They also control the organs. And so we go throughout the entire body. You're starting to get symptoms of that. It means it's been there for 20 years. Neurologically, you're 20 years too late in addressing those symptoms. And so we need to be addressing this sooner. So exam, regular nerve scan, regular x-rays. That's how we tell if there's a problem. That should be built into our healthcare system, but it's not. If you were to go to the medical system and ask for an exam, how much would it cost to get your nervous system checked? $2,000, $3,000. And I just charge you guys $105 for that. Right? We do it once a year, sometimes twice a year, just to make sure that we're making progress. Right? So, action steps. Number 1, you get 15% off the foundational 3 today. If you get the foundational 3, you also get 15% off of anything. You're getting 10% off of anything if you don't get the foundational 3 today. Free stocking. But if you get the foundational 3 today, you're also getting either a free sauna session or a free stem wave session, one or the other. So if you need a stem wave session, do that. If you need the sauna session, do that. We're also doing 50% off our sauna packages. So if you need to stock up on a few of those, they're normally $20 a piece, so they're $10 a piece tonight. Or if you get a package of 4, that would normally be $50, that's $25. You're getting a package of 4. If you want to do it limited for a month, that's normally $100, so it's only $50 if you want to do that. The Women's Serenity Spa Day. So, gentlemen, plug your ears. La 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 la. April, I think you need to come talk for me. Where'd you go? Oh man, spotlight. Okay, I can't talk about it. I'm not female, so let's go on. So the recap workshop. I said that we would do this. So if you've got a friend that needs to know this stuff, this is where you bring it. So you can put them online. But they would much rather meet me. You know, hear my jokes in person. You know, so bring them out to Natural Grocers. We'll do that on Saturday the 17th at 11:30 in the morning. So that's a great opportunity to go see Natural Grocers, see that environment, do some shopping afterwards. The next workshop that we're doing in the office will be our allergy workshop. I don't know what the title is yet. That's still in the works, but we're going to be talking about allergies, seasonal food allergies, intolerances, food sensitivities. That's going to be a really good one. That'll be in June 9th. That'll be Monday at 6:15 p.m. And then you can pre-schedule your massages with Ben. He's starting on Monday the 14th, and he'll be here in the afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. So we can take your name, we can reserve a spot for you. massage facility license. April. You missed your spotlight. We called you.
All right, tell my ladies in the house, this is for you and online. So on the 26th, we are having our women's spa. I've been kind of talking to you guys as you're going around, so it's really exciting. I have some great things planned. I have, if you have not ever been or heard of a sound bath, you want to come to this. It is amazing. Samantha Galantine, she works out of Roots Yoga, I think it is, and she is amazing. A sound bath is where they have bowls and chimes and bongs, and they do a subtle, nice little music. We are going to be talking, so you can come in your pajamas if you want. We are going to be talking about sleep. We'll have gift bags for you. We will provide you with little sleep masks. We will have snacks and all kinds of fun things. We have Velocity, I think is the name of the gym. Forgive me, I don't have it up memorized in my head, but they are an all women's gym, and they're going to be giving us some promotions for our people. So that will be in the gift bag. So there'll be a lot of little goodies. I made, which I'm so excited, for my first time, a roll-on for Serenity because they ran out of the little roll-on sticks. So I made my own for everybody. So you guys will have a sample of those. Plus we'll have one there. We'll have those that day as well for you guys to use that time, and so you can kind of relax and just enjoy yourself with the snacks. So it's all about just women and getting to know our bodies and sleep and enjoyment. So hope all of you can attend. Put it on